So, as many of you know, TYT is just like going down the drain right now. Like Anna Kasparian, she's pretty much a full blown right winger now. I don't know if she said that she's in favor of MAGA, or that she is MAGA. I don't know, but she's a right winger now. And they commented on Bill Maher recently going to have dinner with Donald Trump. Now, Bill Maher, they'll go through the story, so I'm not going to go through it myself too much. But Bill Maher said that Trump is really a nice guy in person. So Larry David, I think he was one of the writers for Seinfeld and a bunch of other stuff. He wrote this whole piece in a media outlet that basically told his story of having dinner with Hitler. 1933, and the Fuhrer invites me to the Fuhrer bunker to eat dinner with him. And he was so nice and charming, and I'd never seen that side of him before, and, so on and so forth. He's basically just pointing out how absolutely disgusting and ridiculous it is for Bill Maher to have said such a thing. Anyway, being the right wingers that they are, as far as I can see, Anna Kasparian defends Bill Maher and disparages Larry David here. Let's see what they said.
Comedian on comedian violence over a dinner with Donald Trump. Larry David is using his pen to point out what he sees as Bill Maher's misguided meal with the president and his even more misguided monologue to defend that dinner.
I don't have a problem with him having dinner with Trump if that's what he wanted to do, but he decided to defend Donald Trump afterward, defend the dinner and say he was a really nice guy and all that other. That's like, what?
I was prepared to meet Hitler, the one I'd seen and heard, the public Hitler. But this private Hitler was a completely different animal.
Yeah, and he basically just quoted Bill Maher and what he said about Donald Trump, like word for word in some cases.
Larry David, the creator of Curb Your Enthusiasm, is not enthused about the fact that comedian Bill Maher decided to have a sit-down conversation, a private conversation with President Donald Trump.
I mean, I don't think that he necessarily has a problem with him talking to him. I think the problem is that he's a public figure that represents a position, and he's moving to the right so far that he's willing to sit down with Trump, have dinner with him, and publicly say he was a really nice guy. Like, rehabilitate his image, basically. He's rehabilitating Trump's image by doing this, is the problem. I don't care if he sits down and has dinner with him and talks to him. I would. Trump invites me to the White House, you bet your ass I'd be there. Yes, absolutely. And I would tear him apart. I would, shred his ideas to pieces as he proposed them to me. That's not what Bill Maher did. He had dinner with him and then rehabilitated Trump's image afterward. I think that's really the key difference here.
With President Donald Trump. Now, Bill Maher has been highly critical of Trump. He has not been a friendly broadcaster toward Trump.
You mean like 5 years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago? Yeah, you're right. Bill Maher was not friendly toward Trump 5 or so years ago. But he's been reasonably friendly in the past 6 months.
But nonetheless, just yesterday, Larry David published a parody of Maher in the New York Times titled, Larry David, My Dinner with Adolf. So he's drawing parallels between Trump and Adolf Hitler.
He absolutely is acting like Hitler. The only difference that I can see between the two and what they're doing and like the path that they are taking between 1933 and like 1935 and Trump's second term, the only differences that I can really see is that Donald Trump doesn't have a visceral ideological hatred for a certain group of people the way that Hitler did. I think Trump probably doesn't like minorities, but it isn't a borderline spiritual belief that they should be purged from the face of the earth. That was what Hitler believed. I think Trump basically wants to be a dictator, and he knows that his weird little dictator supporters want him to do horrific by sending people to concentration camps, so that's what he's going to do. Hitler had an ideological, visceral hate for Jews. I think Trump he wants to be a dictator, and he's ready and willing to do like whatever it takes to make his weird little nutcases happy. And he knows that sending people to concentration camps makes him happy, so that's what he's going to do. No visceral hate for immigrants. I think Trump has like a dislike for minorities. I think he just thinks, I think he believes that minorities are inferior. Like, I think he believes that like black people are inferior to white people. But I don't think that it's a visceral hate to the same degree as Hitler's hate for Jews. Like I said, Hitler's feelings were borderline religious. Like he believed that he had a spiritual mandate to purge them from the face of the earth. And Trump has no ideology, as Antics points out accurately. So anyway, yeah, that's my position on it. That's why I don't think that we're going to go full Nazi Germany, as in we're probably not going to have death camps, because sending them to concentration camps is enough. But I guess remains to be seen, right?
And to understand what David is getting at, let's actually discuss how Maher's dinner went, or more importantly, how Maher described his dinner with Donald Trump on his HBO show Real Time with Bill Maher. So he said, quote, "I never felt I had to walk on eggshells around Trump. And honestly, I voted for Clinton and Obama, but I would never feel comfortable talking to them. The way I was able to talk with Donald Trump, that's just how it went down. Make it what you will. It's emblematic of why Democrats are so unpopular these days."
This is Maher rehabilitating Trump's reputation. That is what's happening. That's my problem with this. I'm sure he's a perfectly nice guy in person. I don't give a You know what I care about? I care about the fact that he is literally renditioning people to concentration camps right now. I care about the fact that he is creating a chilling effect on free speech, sending people, renditioning people who speak positively about Palestine. That is unacceptable. I don't care what he's like behind closed doors. It's completely irrelevant. Hitler ordered people to do like massively evil things. I don't give a fuck what he was like behind closed doors. For the record, supposedly Hitler was a really nice, charming, jovial guy. He was very charismatic, very sweet behind closed doors, made self-deprecating jokes and all of it. He was a really nice guy in person, supposedly. I couldn't possibly care less if Donald Trump was a nice guy when you went to see him. There is literally nothing in the world that matters to me less than that. Well, it's equal with the things that I care nothing about, I'll say. So drawing the difference between a concentration camp and a death camp with CCOT. There was a difference between concentration camp and death camp, but I don't think that we really know what CCOT is right now. There is reason to believe that it might be a death camp, but it's certainly at the very bare minimum a concentration camp, tantamount to Nazi Germany. It's the "I became MAGA when I went to a Trump rally and everyone was so nice and normal" argument. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's what it is. It's the same. It's called love bombing, dumb. Did you really not know about this? Have you never heard of this before? Cults do this all the time to people. Again, I don't like insulting people, but I wasn't insulting anybody directly there, so I'll take it.
These days. He continues, "There were so many moments when I hit him with a joke or contradicted something and no problem. At dinner, he was asking me about the nuclear situation in Iran. That's definitely concerning. In a very genuine, hey, I think you're a smart guy. I want your opinion sort of way. And I said, well, obviously you're privy to things about it, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm going to stop. I do.
Well, I feel like she shouldn't have stopped there, because Maher went on to say that he told Trump that the Iran nuclear deal was good, which it was, but Trump destroyed it. And there are two ways to deal with Iran and their nuclear proliferation and their terrorist action or whatever. Either it's going to be through diplomacy with the Iran nuclear agreement. It was a big accomplishment at the time, or it's going to be through war, because Iran is not going to stop. They're going to continue to fund terrorism and cause problems for everybody and continue to try to get a nuke. Once they get a nuke, that's it. It's over. Like, there's nothing we can do, because they're just going to drop nukes on everybody if they don't get their way. like North Korea. Basically, they are going to threaten to use a nuke on people if they don't get what they want constantly. So it's either diplomacy or war. And you destroyed the diplomacy route that we had set up. Anytime people say Trump is anti-war, point them to that. That is not anti-war. You are walking us into a war. That war may not manifest for another 20 years, but it's coming because of what you did today. You know, my honest opinion on why Maher did this, like went to the White House, in my personal opinion, I believe that he decided to mend fences with Donald Trump because they were on rocky territory for a while there. Because he believes that Donald Trump is going to send comedians that he doesn't like to Guantanamo Bay or to a concentration camp otherwise. And he wanted to like build that bridge ahead of time. That is my honest personal opinion. Not that it excuses him rehabilitating his reputation. Maher could have just gone to the White House, had dinner with him, and gone home and not said a fucking word about it. Maybe said, I'm going to have dinner with Trump. We'll see how it goes. And then afterwards say, I had dinner with Trump. And that's it. Anyway, let's keep listening here.
Not want Trump to take advice from Bill Maher on anything pertaining to the Middle East. But let me continue. But for what it's worth, I thought the Obama deal was worth letting play out because we made Iran destroy 98% of the uranium and they were 15 years away from a bomb. And then I said to him, but we got rid of that. You got rid of that. He didn't get mad or call me a left-wing lunatic. He took it in. Finally, he says,
yeah, I mean, there's no surprise. His personality is built for like, media, for interviews and stuff. Of course. And to get the most attention. Does this surprise you? Really? You've been in the media business your whole life practically, Bill.
You can hate me for it, but I'm not a liar. Trump was gracious and measured. And why he isn't that in other settings, I don't know and I can't answer. And it's not my place to answer. I'm just telling you what I saw and I wasn't high. So before we get to Larry David's, parody response to all of this, Cenk, what are your thoughts on Bill Maher's take here?
Yeah, no, I agree with Bill Maher. I think you should go to meet with him, and I'm glad that he put in a vote for, getting back into the Iran nuclear deal that Obama had. And
it's done. You can't. It's not happening. It was hard enough to get into that deal with Iran in the first place, and they fulfilled every expectation. They, met every inspection. It was all perfectly good the entire time. And Trump destroyed the deal. And Iran said, if he will rip it up, then we will burn it. And that was it. No more Iran deal. You can't go back on that. There's only one way to deal with this now, pretty much, unless the United States has a complete change of everything from the bottom up. We change literally everything about how we function, and we're suddenly a full democracy again. And all of that stuff. Maybe then Iran would work with us, maybe. But you know what else pulling out of the Iran deal proved? That the United States is untrustworthy with their treaties. We can't be trusted.
Not going to war. So obviously Bill Maher and we disagree a lot on Israel, but apparently we agree on that. And since Donald Trump cares a lot about what people on TV think, that's not just one vote, that's a lot of votes in Donald Trump's mind against war. So I'm glad that Bill did that.
It's too late. There is going to be a war. It's pretty much unavoidable now because of Donald Trump. It's going to happen almost inevitably.
Larry David's op-ed was really clever, funny, effective, and I totally disagree with it.
You disagree with it? Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's actually not that interesting. I totally suspected that would be your take.
Oh my God, dude.
So look,
the Larry David article is actually really funny. They're gonna read some of it, I think.
Would be your take. So look, Larry David, not a fan of that monologue from Bill Maher or his willingness to go speak with Donald Trump. So let me give you a few excerpts from the op-ed, the parody op-ed that he wrote in the New York Times. He says, I had just been a vocal critic of Hitler's on the radio from the beginning, but eventually I concluded that hate gets us nowhere. I knew I couldn't change his views, but we need to talk about the other side, even if it has invaded and annexed other countries and committed unspeakable crimes against humanity.
God, she keeps getting things wrong, and it drives me nuts. I knew I couldn't change his views, but we need to talk to the other side. Because that's what Bill Maher says. This is a one-to-one analogy to what Bill Maher is doing. Donald Trump, objectively, factually, is committing crimes against humanity. Unspeakable, horrific, disgusting, period. There's no denying that. And Bill Maher said, I was a critic, but I concluded hate gets us nowhere, so I went and had dinner with him. I don't understand what's wrong with Larry David's analysis here, really?
I mean, Barack Obama literally assassinated an American citizen in the Middle East.
Oh, and you think that no, that's not what happened. But you think Donald Trump is just as bad as Obama or vice versa? You think that Obama is as bad as Donald Trump because of, even if that were true, because of that? What? Do you know what's happening right now? Again, she's a right winger. She has no idea, apparently. Did you just not look? They're literally sending people to concentration camps. Literally, right now. Innocent people who didn't have due process, didn't have... You know, we talk about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but there were like 200 others who were equally as innocent. And nobody is saying about them. Nobody is doing anything about them. I mean, we can only do so much. So it's not like they're just being ignored. They picked Kilmar Abrego Garcia because he had a clean record, and it was, you know, the Trump regime said on record they sent him by mistake. He was the perfect case to take to the Supreme Court. That's why he's the focus. But Trump is literally using concentration camps and sending innocent people to them. That's the point. And Anna thinks Obama drone striking this area that got a U.S. citizen killed by mistake, if I remember correctly, is equivalent. Like, what universe do you live in?
He was a suspected terrorist, but American citizens are supposed to, by the way, everyone is supposed to get due process.
Then why is she defending Trump right now with this? Doing this both sides bullshit. One side is worse than the other, period. There's no both sides about it here.
In this case, I mean, we're talking about an American citizen that was assassinated, and then his son was assassinated after that. So
I don't think that's accurate, but whatever.
Look, I understand where Larry David is coming from because Trump does not have a spotless record at all. But at the same time, I just find it so interesting how all these big public figures, especially entertainers, seem to think that the Democratic Party is squeaky clean.
Now, why are we talking about the Democrats? That has nothing to do with anything, literally nothing. This is called the tu quoque fallacy, or whataboutism. What about the Democrats? What about them? Why do we care? We're talking about Trump literally being a dictator and literally sending people to concentration camps. Why are you talking about Democrats? This is embarrassing.
When in a lot of cases, they have carried out atrocities of their own, you know, in Democratic administrations. But since they smile and they come across as professorial and professional, they're the good guys. Whereas Trump, yes, I get it. The way he speaks is grotesque at times. He doesn't hide what he actually thinks and just says it like it is. And
that's not my problem with Donald Trump. I guess it's one of them. My problem is the complete erosion of freedom of speech and the removal of due process. Talked about this previously, but the Department of Justice under Pam Bondi released instructions to ICE to enter people's homes to retrieve immigrants with or without a search warrant. Go into people's houses, whether you're allowed in or not, and grab them. No longer do we have the guarantee of due process, but we also don't have a guarantee to the Fourth Amendment, our right against unreasonable search and seizure. It's pretty clear that we don't fully have the First Amendment either, our right to freedom of speech. He's eroding one after another.
That honestly offends the sensibilities of a lot of people, but that's not to say that he, in some ways, he is worse, right? But
in some ways, he's worse.
I have a problem with like the whitewashing of the, crimes against humanity that were committed by the other side of the political aisle.
It's completely fucking irrelevant. Why are we even talking about it? They're not in power. We're talking about this right now. And again, I I contest that. I'm not going to let her get away with that. It's complete bull. But both sides are not the same. Donald Trump is absolutely a dictator.
As well.
Yeah. So on the surface, there's a lot to agree with Larry David on. So when you, or should you be concerned about Donald Trump's authoritarian tendencies? Definitely. So that is not an illegitimate concern at all.
But I thought the Democrats were doing that.
He's talking about serving a third term. That's obviously unconstitutional.
No, the Democrats did that, right? Didn't the Democrats do that?
They're talking about suspending habeas corpus and due process.
The Democrats did something, and that upsets me greatly. Democrats are just as bad as Donald Trump because Democrats did something once in some place. Give it a fucking rest, people.
Suspending habeas corpus and due process. That's the cornerstones of Western civilization. Not listening to the courts. If he does this consistently, and for example, he is not yet at the point where he is saying, "I will never listen to the courts."
No, he's completely ignored the courts. Yes, he is at that point. He has disregarded the order to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He was supposed to have done that already, and he's not. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0 unanimously he must do that. Where is he? He's ignoring the courts. We are in a constitutional crisis. Our Constitution is being completely ignored right now.
But he's getting there. And if he gets there, we've lost the country. We've lost democracy.
Well, he's there.
No, I'm going to go further than you, Jake. No. He is not listening to literally the highest court of the land, the United States Supreme Court.
Oh, now she wants to criticize Trump.
So that is a huge problem. And I'm not in any way trying to cover up, the bad behavior and unconstitutional,
could have fooled me.
Behavior that Trump is engaging in. He did not listen to the United States Supreme Court, which told him you need to bring this individual back from El Salvador, who you basically illegally deported. You didn't give him due process.
Renditioned. I'm using the word renditioned now. He's been renditioned to a concentration camp because deportation doesn't sound as bad as what's happening right now. People don't have, they get an image in their head when they hear deport that is not reality. This is way worse than deportation by like a lot.
So yeah, it's bad.
So it's almost as bad as it could be. But why do I say almost? Because I'm trying to be accurate and correct here. So why do I think that the Rubicon has not been completely crossed? Because the Supreme Court ordered the case to go back to the district court and work its way back up on how to bring him back. So we're not at the end of the road yet.
We are at the end of the road, actually, and Trump is completely ignoring the Supreme Court. He was supposed to have, if he were following the rules, he would have been returned, I think, April 13th or something. I don't remember what the deadline was, but there was a deadline, and he missed it. So we're definitely there. However, I don't believe that democracy is lost completely because elections are still controlled by the states, which means rigging them would be really, really difficult. It's not in the hands of the executive branch. I believe that our election systems still function. However, Donald Trump is doing everything he can to suppress votes and scare people and all kinds of. But I do believe that we can bring the democracy back if we, if the right set of circumstances play out. So we'll see.
So, but once it goes back up to the Supreme Court, the court is going to give a definitive ruling. And if he ignores it at that point, that's it. We cross the Rubicon. We're in a constitutional crisis.
We are in a constitutional crisis. We have been for a while now.
And he's on his way to authoritarianism, right? So, and he's on that road now, and he's testing things. So why do I disagree with Larry David, especially because it's such a clever way of putting it in the op-ed? Well, because he's assuming that Trump is already Hitler, and we have already arrived at that end conclusion.
What? What the f*** are you talking about? You think that Larry David said that he is already Hitler? Like, what does that even mean exactly? Are you saying that Larry David's satirical article intended to blow a hole through Bill Maher's whole defense is inaccurate because Trump is not literally like the human being named Hitler with a mustache? I don't understand what the fuck you're going on about right now. We don't have death camps. That's pretty much it. But everything is playing out exactly as it did, aside from that, in 1933. Hitler takes control, I believe, January 28th or somewhere in there. The Reichstag building burns down right before an election that was supposed to take place in March. And Hitler uses that as the basis to declare an emergency and get emergency powers, which is exactly what Trump did. Emergency powers only supposed to be used in times of war, the Alien Enemies Act. And it just went completely off the rails from there in Germany. He completely erased democracy and rewrote it the way that he wanted it to be. Donald Trump is trying to do that, but I think that we have institutions that are a little bit too strong to be able to be erased that way or that easily or quickly. In Germany at the time, again, I wrote about this at length. If you want to read what I wrote, Was Hitler an Atheist? Amazon and Audible or owenmorgan.com. Anyway, the reason Hitler so thoroughly erased democracy so rapidly and had such minimal pushback, though he did have pushback, is because Germany kind of had democracy imposed upon them. After World War I, after they signed the Treaty of Versailles, they formed a constitutional republic, almost identical to the United States, actually. It's very, very similar. And a lot of people believe there was no separation of church and state at the time. It didn't exist in Germany. And people believed the church that controlled the state was the one that was ordained by God, because because the Bible, Romans 13 something something, you should mix government and I don't even remember. But anyway, they mixed the two, and they believed that the Constitution was given by God, not by men. And the Constitution basically said it was created by the people. That was offensive to a lot of Christians. So anyway, they were ready to give up on democracy when Hitler came along, is my point. And it took no time at all beyond that. I mean, I think it took him 53 days to completely erase democracy in Germany. It was very, very rapid, just like we're seeing with Trump. Very rapid, just every single day, something psychotic happening.
And Bill Maher is playing patty cakes with him anyway, right? No, I would argue that Bill is going, and remember, guys, I'm a guy who's criticized Bill Maher ferociously. So if I have any biases against Bill Maher.
Oh, please.
But I think he did the right thing here because he's trying to prevent, to the best of his ability. He's just one guy, right? But at least he's trying. He's trying to prevent those ends. If we had already gotten to those ends, then yeah, who gives a damn if Hitler cracks a joke, right? And so, but how is Bill helping to do that? Well, in this analogy, Trump has not crossed over to the Sudetenland yet, which
Are you f***ing me right now? You're saying that Trump is not literally Hitler because he doesn't have death camps, and that means that it's unfair to compare him to Hitler? Is that what Cenk is saying right now? Really? Bro, come on. Let me see if I got this video. Hold up.
I want to call it Bush-like, Cheney-like, you're with us or against us attitude.
100% wrong.
Like you just literally, I love that you're
Yes.
proving my point. But
No,
when
I'm not.
I
You're
say
proving
this,
my
'cause
point.
you
Okay,
truly,
so let me explain.
you sound like people are either against you, but if
No.
they criticize you, they are not. And yet here you are, Cenk, telling the entire right wing that all you want to do is break bread with them, that you want to debate with them, but afterward you want to go have a beer.
Yes, I do.
You want to have a
All you
beer with
wanna do is
people
hate
who
them.
want
How's that work out for us, Randy?
who
How
want
is
to
the
put
hate
people
work out
in
for us?
mass deportation camps. They want to deport.
You think we're gonna get put in camps? You sound all right. Anyway,
You think I sound crazy? They're starting with Chinese people. That's my family, dog.
Cenk Uygur says, it's ridiculous to think they're going to send us to camps. They are literally doing that. Like, Donald Trump is literally doing that right now.
People in mass deportation camps. They want to deport.
you think we're gonna get put in camps? You sound all right. Anyway,
You think I sound crazy? They're starting with Chinese people. That's my family, dog. Like, what are you
Randy,
talking about?
That's such an excuse. Okay, no, they're going to
what
start
is
with
an
Muslims.
excuse?
They're going to
What
start
is
with my people.
Sure,
If they
sure,
start
sure.
it all.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
stop hiding behind vulnerable communities.
I'm hiding behind vulnerable
Yes, you
communities.
are. You're using
I'm
them as human
standing in
shields.
front of vulnerable communities.
No,
Jake,
you're
what are
not.
you doing? What are
No,
you doing?
I'm in front of vulnerable communities.
Uh-huh,
I'm the
uh-huh.
most endangered,
By
Franny.
tweeting at Elon Musk? Please
whatever.
don't help me. Come
Okay, so
on,
this
Jake.
is
This is so
total BS.
sad. That's
Yeah, so it's kind of a
so
Okay, so
sad.
let's
fest, a fest 2025. I love going to fests. Anyway, it was kind of crazy. I actually covered this entire thing on my Unfiltered channel, but Cenk Uygur laughed about the idea that, you know, there would be concentration camps. He mocked the idea at the time, and he doubled down on it. This isn't the only place he talked about it. He said, there's no way. This is not going to happen. And he had a completely backward read on the situation, obviously, because now we do have concentration camps. Okay, I don't know what this is, but let's just see what we got here.
In that video, he laughed at me for suggesting that Trump would create detention camps. After the discussion in December, TYT main show never asked me back on. And then when I made a harmless little video pointing out that yes, there are detention camps, that seemed to be one of the final straws.
Wait, I feel like I remember watching this. I might have even said that Francesca was maybe being unhinged at the time. I don't remember if I said that or not. Yeah, she said
she was not being unhinged at the time by any stretch of the imagination. She was 100% completely and totally reasonable to say such a thing.
something about like they're gonna round people up and put them in concentration camps or detention camps or whatever. And Francesca was technically wrong because it's worse than that. But Cenk and then maybe even me were very wrong in saying that like I don't think it'll get that bad. I don't know what my position was on that at the time. This was you reacting to Francesca bringing up deportation camps.
You want to hear with people who want to put people in mass deportation camps. They want to deport.
You think we're going to get put in camps? You sound all right. Anyway,
you think I sound crazy? They're starting.
Hold on, just to be clear. That's the stated policy position of Donald Trump. Thank you. Yes. Okay. That's good. Thank you. Okay. I had the wherewithal to understand this at the time.
That's funny. It was the stated policy position, but I honestly was afraid that it might happen. And I was doing whatever I could, you know, voting and getting other people out to vote or whatever to stop it. But I didn't actually think it was going to crumble that quickly, truthfully. I thought if we were going to have concentration camps, it would take us a couple of years to work up to it. Anyway, let's keep listening to Cenk here. Just such an embarrassment, man. Come on.
I would argue is attacking Iran. And Bill is telling him, don't attack Iran. And so will I take that? Yes. Yes. I will definitely take that as opposed to other people in the room telling him to attack Iran and no counter voice.
Sure, I'll get somebody in there giving Trump a counter voice, but not rehabilitating his reputation afterward.
So I love that Bill Maher went there and I'm actually surprised at his opinion on that, but very pleasantly surprised. And so that's great. That's why, by the way, you never shut down speech because you never know who's going to help at what time.
No, you should never jail people for their speech. We have freedom of speech because we don't want to live in an environment where we would be afraid of what would happen, like legally, like we might be thrown in jail for it. But if you are a Nazi and go around saying gas the Jews, then I'm sorry, man, you don't have a right to feel that, job security. If you're running around on Twitter and you're saying all of that, you can expect, if your company finds out, that you will be fired for that, and rightfully so. I have no problem with that. They don't want to be associated with a Nazi, then they don't have to. I certainly don't. If we have any business dealings and I find out that you're a full-blown Nazi running around saying gas the Jews, I'm cutting ties. I'm done with you. I don't give a shit what you do or how you could benefit me or whatever. That's not a violation of freedom of speech. That's what Cenk is complaining about here. People facing consequences for their actions. That's called society.
Very pleasantly surprised. And so that's great. That's why, by the way, you never shut down speech because you never know who's going to help at what time. We're all human beings with a real interesting variety of opinions here.
Yeah, and we should all voice those opinions. I'm voicing my opinion that I'm fucking disgusted by Nazis by not working with them.
And so lastly, in terms of why I think it could help is, look, Larry David makes fun of Bill Maher in that, he thought Trump was funny and more open to him than the Democrats. Ha, 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 because Trump is Hitler. But wait a minute. That's not what Maher is saying. Maher is saying Democratic officials in government, not just officials, but candidates and politicians would be better served to be as personable as Trump is Because even though Trump does all these terrible things that we call out, that Bill Maher calls out, he wins elections by being personable. He's trying to give helpful advice to the Democrats.
No, he wasn't. What the f are you talking about? You couldn't possibly interpret it as advice to Democrats for how to whatever. He was rehabilitating Trump's image, is what he was doing. Plain and simple. He was saying, be more like Donald Trump. I suppose in that sense you could interpret it that way. But he was praising Trump first and foremost. What are you smoking? Like, this dude has a terrible read on society and on what's happening right now.
So, hey, that you might be able to beat guys like Donald Trump.
Not allowed.
But, yeah, but if you do anything that is open-minded in any way, shape, or form, or try to influence the Trump administration or the right wing in any form, there are folks like Larry David, who I really respect otherwise, who say, nope, that's it, you're helping Hitler, and that's anyone talking to the right wing ever.
That's not what happened. That's not what was said. That's a complete bastardization of the whole situation. What are you even talking about? Did Larry David say, if you speak with anybody on the right, then you are having dinner with Hitler? Is that what he said? You think that he would have written that article if Bill Maher decided to go out and debate MAGA people on the street or whatever? It's talking to right-wingers, isn't it? This is the kind of dishonest bullshit that I've come to despise from TYT. It's just sad and embarrassing now that they've fallen so far that they are now doing this type of shit right here.
Hitler, and that is super counterproductive, not at all helpful, and ironically will lead to the end that Larry David's worried about in the first place.
Please. You should talk to right-wingers, absolutely. And like I said, I would have dinner with Trump. For sure, I absolutely would. I would not rehabilitate his reputation afterward.
And finally, I just want to leave with one comment from Patrick Healy. He's the deputy opinion editor of the New York Times. And he said the following in an accompanying piece. He argues, Larry's piece is not equating Trump with Hitler. It is about seeing people for who they really are and not losing sight of that. David is arguing that during a single dinner or a private meeting, anyone can be human, and it means nothing in the end about what that person is capable of.
Absolutely on point.
But I would argue that based on what I've heard Bill Maher say about the dinner, he's not arguing that, Donald Trump is actually a stand-up guy. And
are you kidding me? Didn't he literally say those words? Maybe not those words. That's what he's saying. Yes, he said he was really nice and charming.
Reality, and that that one dinner has totally changed his mind about.
How can you possibly read or listen to Bill Maher and what he said and not take that away? That is the message he was delivering. What are you smoking?
Who Trump is as a person. But he did disclose a really interesting dynamic here where Trump seems to be a completely different person when it's behind closed doors and he's having a one-on-one conversation with a political opponent. So that.
But he's not a political opponent, though. He's just ideologically opposite. Or, according to Bill Maher, he is his ideological opposite. Not the same as a political opponent. Political opponents go up against each other in elections and.
That change in behavior, I think, is an interesting revelation to learn about Donald Trump. And let's keep it real. Like, my biggest issue is critics of Trump's need to come up with new material. Like the Hitler thing is getting a little played out.
He's like Hitler. I'm sorry you feel it's getting played out, but that's what it is. How could it be any clearer? He is screaming and crying about immigrants in the exact same way that Hitler did, getting people whipped into a blood frenzy, even calling them aliens. And for the record, Hitler built the Nuremberg laws, which is like the laws that he passed about Jews not marrying Aryans and so on and so forth, not having a place in civil government or whatever. He got those laws, he based those laws off of US race laws, like banning interracial marriage in the United States and, banning black people from living in certain areas and all that. Hitler built his laws off of us. Why is it so surprising to you that Donald Trump looks a lot like Hitler right now.
Be honest with you. Like that's such a tired, parallel to draw. And yeah, he was comparing Trump to Hitler. I'm not stupid. Like if you read the piece, that's clearly what he's doing here.
But I think you missed the overall message. And she's kind of treating us like we're stupid by saying all of this, right?
Yeah. I mean, even if it's an analogy to Hitler.
Yes.
and,
yeah.
and he's less criticizing Trump than he is criticizing Bill Maher for talking to Hitler.
No, for rehabilitating Hitler's image to a gigantic audience and saying how super nice he was.
Equivalent of Hitler. But nevertheless, it is a Hitler reference. There's no question about that. So, I mean, Larry David's a super smart guy. So don't insult our intelligence. And don't be patronizing. If you're going to say something, say it.
Okay, I think you're dumb as dog. I don't like insulting people, and I try not to do that. I'm trying to give you an honest analysis right now. I think these people, Cenk and Anna, are about as gullible as they get. You are the biggest suckers on planet Earth, practically. To find a bigger sucker, I would have to find one of the 7% of people who believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. That's how big of suckers you are, in my opinion.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so, look, I just think that they're on the wrong track. And the thing that I keep going back to is, while they think they're on the moral high ground, folks like Larry David, oh, they're all Hitler, don't talk to Hitler, etc.
It's not about don't talk to Hitler. I would go to Trump in a minute to have dinner with him. Absolutely. It's about rehabilitating his image. My God.
I think that they're being deeply counterproductive because by not talking, by not trying to influence people, by not getting involved in the conversation, you're letting in his analogy, you're letting the brown shirts, the SS, the Gestapo run wild with no opposition. How does that help?
That's not what anybody is saying. But what are you even talking about right now?
At least Bill Maher went in there to try to help and try to push him in the right direction. I don't see Larry David doing that. So,
What, do you follow him around everywhere?
He's perfectly clever, but Larry, show me how you helped, because now for the first time I see how Bill has helped. So I score 1 for Bill Maher.
But he didn't help.
And because normally I love Larry David, and I take Larry David over Bill Maher on almost any other issue. But on this, no, sorry, Larry. I think you're definitely wrong, and you're being counterproductive. And let the brother try to do some good in the world. Every time you ring the...
Oh my God, dude, it's so sad. Like, this is just one example of somebody on the left that, talks to Trump supporters.
Anyways, Ashley, what's going on? Did you vote for Trump?
Oh, I absolutely did.
Why did you vote for the worst president of your life?
Like, we're not going to listen to the whole thing, but he goes through this whole conversation. That's like his whole bit. What are you talking about? People on the left aren't talking to MAGA. What? You mean we're not agreeing with MAGA? No, of course we're not. Why would you think that we would agree with MAGA? Anyway, seriously, this is really sad. It is really sad to see Anna and Cenk fall this far, to stoop to this level. Honestly, I might have more respect for the people that believe chocolate milk comes from brown cows, because I feel like they're doing it out of sheer ignorance. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. Just insane.